Good evening. My name is Sherry Scarborough. I'm the president of the West Boca Community Council. I know there's a lot of people here that have not been to any of our meetings in the past. You may not even know who we are. So I'll give you a quick introduction to who the West Boca Community Council is. One, you're sitting in an auditorium that was originally planned to be built on 95th Street, east of Glades Road. And it was the West Boca Community Council, and actually Jeff Winikoff, which I'm sure many of you travel down Judge Winikoff Road, that he worked with Palm Beach County Parks and Recs to get this land to put the school in a more appropriate place. So, and I know many of the people here live in the communities that were screaming when they said University Drive was coming up into West Boca, down in front of the school and through your communities. And we met out here at the high school, and we had DOT here, and we fought for 7 years to stop University Drive from coming through your neighborhoods. So those are a couple of things that we've done. Thank you. Thank you. We've worked very hard with the parks, and every single year we've hosted the 4th of July at the parks. We're proud of that. We'll have another event coming in March, a family festival, that we'll be getting information out on that. And there's a lot of things we've done. And just south of here was supposed to be a dump, which is really the starting point of the West Boca Community Council. There's a dump scheduled, and Fran Reich, who was the founder of the West Boca Community Council, fought, and I believe that was probably a 10-year fight to stop that dump. It's now called the Fran Reich Reservoir, and although not a lot has gone on there, eventually something good will happen there, and it'll, Army Corps will build that out, and it'll be a beautiful park. So that's who we are, and I want to thank you all for coming and being our guests tonight. We have other guests here tonight, which actually one, first of all, is Captain Moss, who's our district captain with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Captain Moss, you want to give a quick update?
Good evening. I'll just take about 2 minutes of everyone's time because I know there's a big agenda. My name is David Moss. I'm the commander for the West Boca District of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office out here. A lot of you know me in this room. We have a great working relationship with the West Boca Community Council. I'm happy to see that this is the most people I've seen at a meeting in a while, which is good, I hope. Although this is the first time I don't see coffee and cookies as well. So usually they have that if you come to the next month's meeting. A quick update just on crime in the area. What is trending from last year, from 2022. We saw an uptick in vehicle burglaries. So be cautious of that if you're parking your vehicle, either in your driveway or at the stores, lock your cars, etc. We did see a reduction in auto thefts, which was also good. Probably the biggest thing that we can all agree on as far as problematic to everyone maybe in this room that you observe every day is bad driving, to say the least. Speeding, red lights, etc. I saw at least one or two on the way over here. Yeah, school zone, yeah, you name it, accidents, etc. Okay, so just keep in mind, I have many of our deputies out here in the back room, and they can tell you we are constantly on top of the traffic issues. It is crowded out here in West Boca, especially during the winter months with people visiting. So, you know, remain calm, drive carefully, and you know, don't get in any confrontations with anyone. If you see something that you need to call us for, please call us, let us know, and we will do our best to take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. We also have Mike Pratt here from Palm Beach County Property Appraiser's Office. Mike, you want to give an update?
Hello, West Boca Raton. I'm with the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser's Office, and just for your reminder, March 1st is the deadline to file for...
Microphone.
March 1st is the deadline to file for your homestead exemption. So if any of your neighbors that are new, that are around, you know, that's the deadline to get the homestead exemption. Will save you money, especially as you continue to live here. In the 2nd year, the values are capped. And your property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks, working hard for you to make a really, really great office, and appreciate your time. So if you want to get homesteaded, or you want to know any questions about your valuation, I have cards. I'll be happy to talk to anybody and look up the information for you as well. Thank you, and have a good meeting.
Thank you. We also have our state representative, Kelly Skidmore. Kelly doesn't want to talk. I think she has a sore throat.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Thank you, but she is here listening, so we certainly appreciate you coming out. We also, and I don't see him, but I know that he said he was here he is, our new fire chief, Chief Bostic, just joined West Boca probably a month ago, so we're happy he's here. Welcome to West Boca.
How you guys doing? So my name is Joe. I'm the new district chief down here in Battalion 5. I was recently promoted about 2 months ago now, and had a bunch of meet and greets with everybody and just trying to get familiar. I do want to say a couple things that is new with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue that you guys should be excited about. We had a new station being built, Station 40. That's on Military and White Feather. It's north of Gateway. That's going to be servicing the West El Rey, Boynton area. And we just had 30 promotions. So we have Station 48 is on Hypo and Lantana. And now they have been staffed with 3 new battalion chiefs and 3 new EMS captains. So we have that, and then the reflux of newer captains and newer lieutenants and everything there. So we're growing, and we're excited about that. And we also met with Hatzala this morning, and we have a Cadet Fest this weekend. So if you guys are in, I know this is West Boca, but there's also new traffic patterns over on Glaze and 95, if you guys have been in that area yet, to try to reduce congestion and everything. So we have that going on. But I am stationed at Station 57, and whatever you guys need, we're here for it, and I'm trying to promote more service and better service down in Battalion 5, so I'm happy to serve you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And we, the West Boca Community Council, will continue to fight for new fire stations in West Boca, since ours are ancient and have been here since the 1980s. So we'll continue working on that because we deserve it. We also have Commissioner Sachs, Vice Mayor, who's going to speak in a few minutes. So before we get to that, I want to introduce the West Boca Community Council Board that is here tonight, that come to all of our meetings, that attend county commission meetings, that attend all kinds of zoning meetings, whatever's going on. This council board works hard at getting things done for West Boca. I'm the face and the mouth, and if you know me, you know I've got the mouth. So this is West Boca Community Council Board: Stanley Siegel, Paul Contrelli, Nick Rongioni, Elliot Burns, Neil Schiller, and Ellen Winnicott. And Ellen's biggest purpose is to kick me under the table when I'm starting to go too far. So Ellen keeps me in line. That's probably a full-time job for her. So one, I want to thank the board because they do work hard and they don't always get the recognition that they deserve. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Sachs, who has worked on getting us speakers and experts on reclaimed water and to try and answer the questions that we have. I know you all have a lot of questions. We certainly have a lot of questions to know what's going on with the reclaimed water. Is it good? Is it bad? There's 2 sides, 3 sides to every story. We want to hear your opinion, your thoughts, what your concerns are, if you're for it, why you're for it. We've asked everybody to fill out a comment card. which we have, and we are hoping that the majority of those questions are answered during the presentation. If not, we'll get to them afterwards. So thank you. Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I went to the wrong area. I was going into the basketball court. Reminds me of high school. My name is Maria Sachs, and I represent you in the county. Now, I'm pretty much a part of your neighborhood. My kids went to the West Boca Montessori School here. They learned swimming at the Aquatic Center at Mission Bay, and they played pretty good baseball at Loggers Run. Now they're went off and did other things, went to expensive schools, came back home. So I've got my daughter at home with me now. She's a millennial. How many of you have millennials in your family? Raise your hand. God bless you, I tell you, they're not easy. They're not easy. She sent me to Publix. I went to Publix. I had to get some milk. So I went over, and I always drink the same milk. The same kind of milk. First of all, I'm from Michigan. We got a lot of milk in Michigan, right? I drink the same kind of milk. I go in, and I get the 2% Publix milk. The jug, put it in there. Get home, say, oh my God, Mom, what's the matter with you? You didn't get the right kind of milk. Well, you know how many types of varieties of milk there is? When I was a kid, there was chocolate and white milk. And that was it, right? Chocolate, and I still drink a little chocolate, I'll tell you that. But there's all kinds, there's 2%, there's Lactaid, there's high level Lactaid, there's low level Lactaid, and there's one that I had to buy, which was very expensive. It's called milk by grass-fed cows. Milk by grass-fed cows. I've never seen anything like it before. It was like $7, you know. So the reason I tell you this story is this. Folks, life has changed. Life has changed. Sometimes, I think, not for the better. All right? We got these stupid screens that we watch. Somebody once said, Maria, who do you think runs the world? Thinking I would say, you know, the president of the United States. This runs the world. You figure out what you're going to do if you lose it. First thing you want to do is call somebody. Then you realize you don't have your phone. And you can't call your phone because you lost your phone. This runs the world. We have so many varieties of milk that confuses me. It does, it confuses me. Right? So, the reason I bring this up is because of what we're going to talk about tonight. When I was a kid growing up, we drank water out of the hose when it got hot outside. I'm pretty healthy. Nothing happened to me.
There's more chemicals now.
Now there is more chemicals.
Yeah.
Of course, I do think there were chemicals then too.
Way more now.
But there are a lot of dangerous chemicals today. All right? So now we have people who are going to help us not get killed or get carcinogenics from something as simple as water. Now, why is water so important? You can go without food for about 3 days. And if you ask Pilates girls, they go without food for about 4 days. But water you cannot go without. Water is very important. How many people here are born and raised in Florida? Raise your hand. Okay. Water in Florida, you think we have a lot of it, don't you? Well, you go a couple of feet down, go 3 feet down, and I did this with my kids with a shovel, because they wanted to dig to China. Okay. Well, we didn't see any China. Well, we dug 3 feet down, and you know what we found? Water. We found water. Now, why is that so important in Florida? Anybody, if you know, raise your hand. Well, I'll tell you why it's important, because that's fresh water. And when that water level gets too low, salt water comes in. In the 1940s, after World War II, and I wasn't here then, but I read about this, okay? they had this big lake in the middle of Florida, and they said, by golly, that's a lot of fresh water. It's too much. Let's ship it out to the ocean. And they built our canals at that time. Now, it seems silly to take fresh water, throw it out to the salt water, didn't it? I always thought it was crazy. But the reason they did it was clever. Because unless you get that fresh water and push it out to the ocean water comes into the land. The ocean water comes into the land. And that's why water, fresh water, is so important in Florida. If that ocean water comes into our land, folks, you can't grow anything. You can't grow weeds in your yard. Hell, we wouldn't even have iguanas anymore. Because salt water is not compatible with human environment.
Neither is reclaimed water.
So, thank you for being here. Now, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So that's why we have to keep our fresh water pure, and we have to protect it. Because as soon as we don't, that salt water is going to come in, and we're gone. You think you love your house now, you won't be able to sell your house. Anybody here live in Miami-Dade for a while? Okay, I went to school in Miami. The property values are dropping so quickly because of the intrusion of salt water. And those of you who know Miami know Opa-locka, right? Opa-locka is where the land values are going up because it's high up. So the situation is this. Florida is a peninsula. I see it as a boat. We're floating. And after we're gone, 7,500 years, there may not be any South Florida anymore. So I'll be part of the ocean. So what we have to do is we have to protect sir, if you do not, I'll tell you one thing, I'm a former prosecutor. No, sir. No, sir. If you get, okay, if we have him removed, Captain, if we have security, I will, sir.
No, I have freedom of speech. You're lying and saying Florida's been gone 75 years. It's not. It's not.
I'm not going to continue with it. He's got to be removed.
Okay, everybody, first of all, this is a council meeting, and I ask, and we appreciate everybody coming out, both our speakers as well as you, and everybody is a guest, and we ask that you please allow the speakers to speak when they're done, and we have questions that you all have submitted, and we're going to get to those, but if we interrupt the speaker, we're never going to get to that, and I appreciate everybody being kind and allowing our speakers to speak. Thank you.
We have a lot of people here who will all have a chance to participate. If somebody is going to speak out, either they will be removed because I will not permit it in this. Just, sir, okay, one more time, and I'm going to ask the sheriff deputies to have you removed because all these folks here also would like to speak. Okay? All right. So the bottom line is we have to protect our fresh water. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect it as much as we can. As I told you about the varieties of milk, we have varieties of water. We have varieties of water. You're going to hear today from the head of our water department in the county. His name is Ali Bayat. He's a graduate of University of Central Florida, undergraduate in environmental protection. He has a master's degree in water. He is the head of the water department for the entire county, 1.5 million people of Palm Beach County. Second, you're going to hear from our assistant director of Palm Beach County, has degrees from University of Florida and FSU. So I'm not an expert. I'm a mom, now I'm a grandmother. I'm from this area. I am as concerned about water and the safety of my kids and my grandchildren as anybody is here. So we brought you, because of Sherry Scarborough, we're bringing you the experts. You're getting the information. You take that information, you do what you want with it. I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm going to give you the information from the experts. You don't like it? Get another expert. You make your own decision. This is your property. This is your county. This is your families live here. You get the best information that you can get to make an informed and educated decision. Then you do what you want. All right? So let's get this party started, shall we? We're going to start with Todd Von Laren, who's the Assistant Director for Palm Beach County. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. It's great to be here. I want to say thank you, Sherry, to you, the entire council, for putting this meeting together. I see some familiar faces in the audience that I've had an opportunity to come before and talk about this important issue of reuse water and so many others. So I thank you for, again, the continued opportunity to be before you. My name is Todd Von Laren. I'm Assistant County Administrator for Palm Beach County. My career spans 27 years. I started my career in the Florida legislature where I specialized in agriculture and natural resources, and then eventually to Palm Beach County where I currently oversee Palm Beach County's water utility department, as well as a number of our other various departments that you might get services from, like libraries, Palmtran, public safety, legislative affairs. I also want to say thank you again to our State Representative Kelly Skidmore. I know that Senator Tina Polsky said that she was maybe going to try to make it later as well. I would just want to say that you all have some incredible elected representatives in this community that you send both to the commission and to Tallahassee, and I just congratulate you on doing that. They're amazing representatives for you. I share just a little bit of my background because when I came to Palm Beach County, one of my passions became water and water policy. And in the legislature, I've worked a long time on water policy in the state of Florida as we've kind of set out the course of the state. Obviously, agriculture is a significant industry in our state of Florida. So is construction and the growth of people coming to our state. And our natural resources are probably one of the most important things in the state of Florida. Our wetlands, the Everglades, all of those natural resources are integral to sustainability in South Florida. And what the state of Florida has tried to do in the legislature over some years, and particularly in South Florida, is realized the delicate nature of the ecosystem that exists here in South Florida. And by that, and particularly when it comes to the issue of water, they realize that water doesn't grow like crops do or grow like trees do. There is a finite resource that exists in water in the state of Florida, and particularly in South Florida. And in the early 2000s, as we started talking more about the Everglades, the sustainability of the Everglades, the sustainability of wildlife in our community, and what that does and how it feeds our aquifers and ultimately feeds the drinking water sources, they realized that there were some protections that needed to be in place in order to preserve and balance all of those needs, particularly considering that we're one of the largest agriculture growing regions in America, just right here in Palm Beach County. So in the early 2000s, the Water Management District passed a particular rule that they put in place, and that rule was called the Regional Water Availability Rule. And basically what that said was that they recognized that in order to have all of those balances of the ecosystem, the Everglades, growth, agriculture, to be able to work symbiotically together, that we weren't as people going to be able to just merely continue to put a straw in the ground and just lift that water from the aquifer. That aquifer was not going to be available for that. And as we look to the future, they said it's not going to be available for just future growth that happens in your community. And so as a requirement for us, and Ali will talk a little bit more about our water utility department, our consumptive use permit, and that consumptive use permit, which is a 20-year permit that we get from the Water Management District, dictates how much water we can pull out of the ground to meet the needs of all of the residents in Palm Beach County. And so the stipulations in working with the state and specifically the Water Management District meant that in order to grow as a community as we are, and Palm Beach County and Broward and Dade are not necessarily shrinking communities, they are growing, there's lots of building that's going on, but in order to meet all of those needs, the future was alternative water supply. Because the traditional means of pulling water from the aquifer were just not available for the growth to continue that, and also for the preservation of the Everglades, and also to feed agriculture and the production of food throughout our community. And so to that effect, our county took the responsibility years ago and has invested hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into our reuse program here in Palm Beach County. Our reuse program started in 1991, so over 30 years that communities, and you'll see the details all throughout our county, basically are fueled by reuse water, and specifically for some of their irrigation purposes and for the common areas in their communities and for the golf courses and the parks. And we have developed hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure throughout this community to do that. And that is specifically done to meet those requirements of the Water Management District in order for us to get the permits to continue to grow and survive as we have been doing as a community. To that end, also, the legislature and the state recognizes the importance of water reuse as a policy, and in 2006 started a fund in the state of Florida where they allocate about $50 million a year since then in developing these alternative water supplies. And we have done several of those in Palm Beach County. Reuse is one of the most economical to do. Desalinization is another way of doing it. Our C51 project, where we reclaim water that would otherwise be lost to tide in the western areas of our community, is another source of alternative water supply. So I give you a little bit of that history just to understand where we started, where we are, why we're here, and some of those requirements that we have as a state, as a local region, and as a county to make sure that we're doing everything we can to continue to deliver both safe drinking water and safe reclaimed water that we can use in concert with each other in our communities. And we're excited to have an incredible record of reuse in Palm Beach County that spans over 30 years since 1991 at our award-winning water utility, which is considered one of the best in the nation, and actually recently was awarded one of the top in the world for the work that we're doing here in Palm Beach County. For those of you who've gone out to our Green Cay facility ever, some of the western areas just down the street from here, that's a perfect example of some of our reclaimed water program and how we've done that, and our phase 2 will continue that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that as we get into some of the details of water reuse. Now, some of you might not even know what water reuse is, how it comes about. We put together a video for you that I'd like to prompt before I ask Ali to come up, just to share a few minutes about the history of reuse, both around the country, here in South Florida, and give you a little bit better peek into that. And I'd also would say that for those of you that have questions, Ali and I have spent hours and hours before at community meetings. He and I will stay here as long as we need to answer any question that any of you might have, either during the meeting or after the meeting. So we're not going to run off if you've got some additional questions. Thank you.
We rely on fresh water to drink, wash our hair, to clean, and so much more. It is a critical part of our daily lives, but once used, it's considered wastewater. So what happens to the water when you're done using it?
When water gets flushed for Palm Beach County Water Utilities, it goes through about 1,100 miles of a collection system with about 900 lift stations. When it comes to this plant, we go through a pre-treatment system to remove anything that wasn't supposed to get flushed. This includes flushable wipes, hygiene products, human hair, anything that wasn't supposed to make it down gets collected. We then go through and remove dirt, sand. After pre-treatment, we go into our secondary treatment process, which is biological in nature. We have microorganisms that break down the impurities in the water. As these microorganisms do their job, they go through our aeration system, they enter the clarifiers, and they settle out. The cleaner water is then discharged into our effluent system. Effluent system gets some chlorination, and then a large portion of that water goes through our tertiary treatment system, which is a 5-micron filter system. Then chlorinated extra, it gets a longer detention time ranging anywhere from 2 to 12 hours to make sure that anything that could have possibly somehow got through is also disinfected. It is then pumped into our reclaim system and is sent out.
You'll be proud to know that this plant actually exceeds the strict standards set by the state and federal regulatory agencies.
Reclaimed water is water taken from domestic wastewater and treated to high-level standards by the state of Florida. We have continuous monitoring in place for pH, conductivity, chlorine, turbidity, and it's a whole list of things that daily we have to check for the plant staff 24 hours a day. There's alarms on it. If it doesn't meet that quality, the water is shut down.
Reclaimed water is highly treated wastewater. It's been used primarily for irrigation in order to reduce demand on drinking water supplies. It has an excellent safety record. It's been used in Florida for over 40 years with no reports of illness.
Why spend so much time and effort to reuse water? Well, unfortunately, you don't have to look far to find out.
56.7% of the country in drought right now, and we're talking severe to extreme drought.
Little or no rainfall, and it's not only the grass that's drying.
Drought affecting the Midwestern states right now could be the worst in 50 years. The immediate effect, obviously, is on farmers.
Our yields are off. Our yields are probably off 25%.
I mean, this is my crop, but it's everybody's food. This is your pizza sauce. This is your ketchup. This is your salsa. This is where it all comes from. So this isn't just, my issue. This is everybody's issue.
Even though there are storms there on radar right now, South Florida is in a drought situation.
A brush fire recently threatened homes.
It's really dry.
With after 2 inches of rainfall. Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Okeechobee County are all in a severe drought. Even Okeechobee County announced a burn ban today.
You have a lot of flammable fuel.
Trying to work toward resolutions. Golf courses, sports fields, and resorts, they all need a lot of water to keep the grass out there green and the trees healthy.
But why use perfectly good drinking water when you can use recycled water? That's just what's being done in some areas.
In the lower East Coast, which includes Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade counties, 6.2 million people are using over 1 billion gallons a day. That's for drinking water, irrigation, agriculture, commercial, and industrial. In the lower East Coast, we're projecting population is going to increase by over 1.2 million people by 2045. Along with those people are coming additional water demands. To meet those demands, we need to develop alternative water supplies.
I think people need to understand that in order to preserve and conserve the water we have, we must reclaim water that we use.
The biggest advantage of the reclaimed water is the fact that it will always be available to us. There will be no shutoff. And that's something that we've all been worried about, particularly since the drought in the early 90s.
And it's not just golf courses that will be using reclaimed water.
We have to have permits for every bit of water we pump. Part of our requirements is that we will use the lowest form of available water. In other words, if you've got access to affluent water, and we do, our permit requires us to use that. We use it. We've had no issue with it. It's very good. We're putting it in ponds, so we're really diluting it down. So after that, it takes no extra thing. We do put some signs up, telling people we use it not to drink this water. Of course, we were doing that anyway. And the runoff that's in the pond water, you don't want anybody drinking that anyway. So there's not a whole lot of extra requirement. And it's really been a blessing.
This water has already been pulled out of the ground at some point that comes into our plant. So what we're able to do is treat it, make it safe, and we're able to then recharge the surface water area to allow it to go through a natural water cycle.
This water fell from up there, and sooner or later, all of this water will be back up there again. It's a cycle, the water cycle.
Fresh water is recycled over and over again, and Mother Nature is the world's great recycler. All water is reused, all water is recycled through the hydrologic cycle. But what we're seeing is more and more interest in using this reclaimed water as a water resource, as a means for conserving available water supplies, and also getting it back to augment and supplement available water supply.
Truly a natural gem.
one so special that it was named the best park in Florida by Money Magazine.
This whole place was created. Your count of people is thousands a day.
We're diversifying our sources so that we're not dependent on one source, groundwater or surface water. We need to find ways to reuse and recycle and use this water time and time again. And reuse is a great opportunity to realize that goal.
Water is water. And even in its dirtiest state, untreated domestic wastewater doesn't look very nice, but it's water. It's some 99.9% water. It's a water resource, and it can be, should be, and indeed must be used for beneficial purposes.
We're going to drought-proof ourselves. Over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, the state of Florida needs to become drought-proof. We can use this reclaimed water appropriately and recharge our aquifer and wetlands. Reclaimed water, representing 7 or 8% of our total daily use, can go a long ways to recharging our aquifer. Why is this important? Everything we do in our economy is driven by water. The main leading driver of the economy today, tourism, agriculture. You know, a lot of times we take agriculture for granted because we have plenty of food, so we take it for granted sometimes. But it's one of the leading drivers of the economy. And then growth in the state of Florida. How do we continue to grow our economy? We have 700 people a day moving to the state of Florida. How do we have those resources available? So we're going to have to utilize those waters appropriately if we're going to continue to sustain growth in the state of Florida, and if we want the state of Florida to be better tomorrow than it is today. The notion that we're going to say, well, we can only go up to this line because this ends our district, I believe that era has passed. So, and if it hasn't passed, we're going to work very hard to make it pass. And we have to look at water as a statewide issue. This is a statewide issue. When it is flooding in North Florida, a lot of times it is not. We're in drought in South Florida and vice versa. We need the ability to put our water where we need it and continue to hydrate our wetlands and watersheds.
We're probably one of the most progressive counties in water management and the retention of water for the future generations. And certainly we're all happy to be a big part of it.
I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the Florida Water Environment Association. I'm really pleased to present this award for operational performance excellence to Palm Beach County Water Utility.
Reclaimed water is safe and regulated. It recharges groundwater while reducing the burden on our aquifer. Augmenting supply allows us to meet future demands while protecting our water source for generations. To learn more about reclaimed water, visit us online at pbcwater.com.
So thank you very much for your indulgence in that video. One of the beauties of that video that we loved and put together is the fact that it takes us on a span of decades, right? Some of those clips that you saw were from 25, 30 years ago. And the amazing thing about it is that the evolution of reuse water from some of the first clips of those to where we are today is amazing. It's why our men and women in the military on aircraft carriers use reuse water in order to sustain themselves in their line of duty. It's why astronauts use reclaimed water to drink. It's why in California, they actually use reclaimed water to drink in California. We don't do that in the state of Florida. We're nowhere near that. What we do is we use reclaimed water for mainly irrigation purposes that we have, although the level of which we use that water and we refine and purify that water is really of drinking water quality that we produce it today. And that's the beauty of the progression of some of the technology in this area and where it's going. And with that, I want to turn it over to Ali Bayat, our Director of Water Utilities at the county, to really go over a little bit of a presentation about our water reuse, what we use it for, where it's used, who uses it, and he is really one of our foremost technical and operational experts in the area of reuse in our county. Ali?
Well, good evening. It's been the
5th time I'm coming back to the Boca, so just buy me a house here so we can meet every week. You are my customers. You're the most important piece of anything that we do. Just keep that in mind. And your quality of life is way more important than anything else. The second thing I want to say that up front, no community in West Boca will be forced by the county to take the drinking water, regardless of if we have an agreement or disagreement. So just give me a second, just relax, let the guard down. There's no fight between the county or the HOAs or the district. We are part of the community, just like you, just like everybody else. Commissioner Sachs lives here, Todd lives in the same area, I live in the county also. Let's go through the presentation, but I just wanted to say that up front, that listen to what we're gonna say, and at the end of the day, Commissioner said, you have your own opinion. I promise you 2 things. I'm only gonna give you the facts, and if I don't know something, I will go find out the answer for you, and you're not gonna hear nothing more than that from me. Fair enough? All right, let's go through the presentation. Next slide. Oh, I have to do that. See, I'm used to asking people to do things for me, but I have to do it myself. This one works? Perfect. So, okay. So no introduction needed. These are the list of the people that they are here. They all worked so hard to get this video together specifically for your community and for this meeting tonight. The presentation and the video will be on our website for I believe in the next 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So you can go and watch it, as many times you want. So I'm just going to jump to 3 things. All right. Hold on. Okay. So there is an issue, right? There is a shortage of water. Believe it or not, it's real. It is a shortage of water. We're thinking that Florida rains all the time. That's not the case. We got a problem, and we have to fix it. Every day, 1,000 people moving down here. Commissioner of the Ag said 700. That's an old number. It's actually more than that. So we have to find a way to sustain the demand and also taking care of what we have right now. Safety is going to be the first thing that I'm going to focus on. And believe me, if you're going to see some information here that you usually don't get it from Google. So it's not going to be a waste of your time. The very first thing that I want to do is a comparison from the bacteriological perspective of reclaimed water versus what is in those ponds, the surface water, the canals that you have in your area. These are the regulations. Reclaimed water by default, 75% of the time, we have to have almost no coliforms in reclaimed water. So the treatment has to be so good to pretty much remove everything out of it. Compare that one with the regulation for the surface water. Surface water, that means canal water, ponds water, up to 200 is normal. So you can have E. coli in the canal water, I consider normal. But with the reclaimed water, there is no such a thing. Don't ask me why they have put so much of regulations on us, but that's typically the case in the United States. Compare this with the bottled water. Right now, one of the largest bottled water companies in a state is actually in our service area. They take the same water that we give it to you for almost a penny per gallon. They put it in the bottle and sell it back to the public, and they all love it. It's the same water they take it from us. They follow FDA regulations, which is way limited. We follow EPA, DEP. We have to do 85,000 tests per year to push the water out. They don't have to do all the stuff that we do. But historically, utility, they've been the one that all the regulations be enforced on, and we funded it. We're very proud of what we have done. So that's the regulation. Now we're going to move to, just to give you one example of what the bacterial means. So in your service area, if I'm very good with the direction typically, but I think at this point we are somewhere around this area. This canal is called E1 Canal. That's the one that goes north and south on 441. And that yellow boundary, all those ponds, all those stormwater systems, they discharge that canal eventually. And part of the water also comes from Lake Okeechobee and the larger canal system. Anyways, FDEP, they did a report on this canal, and they tested for the bacteria. You see the numbers.
They did it for 7 years, and the average concentration of the fecal coliforms in that canal was almost more than 1,000. I also put the median over there for you, that some of you, I'm pretty sure they're very good with the statistics. That's your mean, and that's your median. At the same time, this is the 22 data from the Palm Beach County. We tested our regional water last year 250 times, not even one time. We had one colonial of bacteria in the regional water. I'm not going to discuss it, I'm just giving you the fact. So that is about the fecal coliforms, which is the most important thing. E. coli is part of this. The other question that I got a lot, I think that was in the previous meeting that the people are asking us, what about the heavy metals, zinc, lead, arsenic? So there are 18 of them listed here, right? I don't want to go one by one. And what you see at the top, that's the result of 3 years of testing, 2020 all the way to last year.
Who did the test again?
These are metals.
No, who did the testing?
We do the test. We have a certified lab by EPA that get audited every year. And believe me, if that audit, nobody can pass through without doing the right thing.
Do you have the data for Broward County?
We do. We don't. Yeah, we get into it. Yeah, they're very comparable though. We get to them. But anyways, the point here is the regional waters in general, they do not have no metals in it. Those U's and I's and things like that, that means either there was nothing, that was undetected, let me correct myself, undetected. No lab was able to find anything in it. In 3 occasions that it did show some concentration, those concentration actually even less than what is in drinking water standards today, right? This presentation, again, going to be on the web. You can look at it, you can look at the standards and see what we're talking about. So no heavy metals in the water. So I'm going to move on to other subject that was brought to us a lot as far as, oh my God, I did nothing more than one click. Okay. Pharmaceuticals and the personal products has been a study after study after study. What I'm putting up here, this is one perhaps the best study that Water Research Foundation did. And what it says, just take the one in the middle. The risk, is all about the risk, right? We are talking about the chemicals. The risk of someone taking one Advil, look at the middle one, it's, with respect to these chemicals, is equal to someone play for 8,000 years in a grass yard that is being irrigated with leachate water. So there's a very, very tiny of chemicals in any kind of water, no matter where you go. So it's about the risk. So you're taking one Advil, that equals to 8,000 years, if you're playing in that soccer field that is being irrigated with leachate water. Again, a study is available, we can share with you, and they did more than just these 3, but these are just a sample of what they have done. Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to put everything on the website. You can go into it, or if you want after this, I can stay and walk you through the link. Look at the Water Research, Water Reuse Foundation. All right, I walk you through it after this video, no worries. The other one, that's the latest, greatest one that has been going around these days, and that's almost like the past year or so. PFAS. I don't know if everybody knows what the PFAS is. PFAS is a group of chemicals that there's nothing new. They've been around since 1940s, right? Almost 80 years, 90 years. They've been in the environment. The people have been having it in their bloodstream. I can guarantee 98% of the people here in this room, they have some level of the PFAS in their blood already. We don't even know that, right? We've been exposed to these chemicals. The gentleman said so many chemicals, that is true. A lot of chemicals in our life. The question is, at what point that becomes a problem, right? So PFAS has been getting a lot of attention these days. As of now, there is no regulation for the PFAS in a drinking water, what you consume. We are expecting that's going to get regulated in the next 30 days or so. And I can give you this news because I met with some of your representatives a couple of months ago about the drinking water and PFAS. And I believe the water that serves the Boca has the minimum, almost undetectable of the PFAS in your drinking water. So our treatment is so robust that you don't have to worry about any of this in your drinking water. I just give you that one for now. When it comes to irrigation, that's a different story. You know, we're not talking about drinking water anymore. We're talking about the water that you're gonna compare that with the water in your pond, in your canal. The state has the regulation as of now, is not even the regulation, but let's say it is for now. And those are the limits from the state. 6,000 something for the first one and 72,000 for the other one. We tested the water, that's the limits that we got. And that limit, it's very almost the medium to say average for any regional water that I have seen in South Florida, regardless where it's coming from, right? If you believe WHO, the World Health Organization, they came out last month ahead of our system. They said up to 100 between these two, PFOA and PFOS, up to 100 is okay even for drinking. Google it as I'm speaking with you right now. That's the regulation for the World Health Organization. Ours is different. It's a, what is it? Okay. So I'm just giving you what it is, we can discuss. Anyways, after all this, I think that covers most of the safety questions that they've been asked, but I'm more than happy to answer more if there is more at the end. Can we move to the end of it? I have 4 more slides and then I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. So Palm Beach County, these are the important things that you guys need to know. We, back in the 90s, established a mandatory zone for the drinking water. And that's the boundary with the yellow lines that you see. As we're speaking right now, we have more than almost 100 customers, 55 different HOAs, hospitals, public schools. They've all been on this system for years. We have not even one time a single problem. This is the list of some of the communities that we serve. First line, I added some from the Seacoast utility. They serve the north side of the county. You see a lot of familiar names. Perhaps on the one that we serve, the first column, the closest to you is St. Andrews. And St. Andrews is right over there at the bottom of that yellow line, rectangular shape thing, the blue one. I also added some communities from Boca Raton utility, which they are your neighbors. They are on the east side of your neighborhoods. The purple ones. These are all being named. All of these communities being served by the water that is being following the same regulation from the state. Can we answer the question at this point, or we're going to hold on to it to the end?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
It relates specifically to this. The water that we're supposed to get is coming from Broward County, correct?
Correct.
So it didn't go through the award-winning Palm Beach County facility, and it is not under those.
If you give me 2 minutes, I will get to that point. Yes, ma'am, for sure. I apologize. Just give me 2 minutes, we'll be there. Yeah. So these are all these communities by being served by different utilities, not all of them getting it from us. Seacoast, they have their own utility, their own treatment. Boca Raton, they have their own plan, but the regulations is the same, regardless where the water is in the state of Florida. Broward County, Miami County, Dade, everybody. We all follow the same thing. So now let's talk about specifically with this project. So you see our mandatory zone, right? You're already outside of the mandatory zone of the county. So that means that we're not going to be able, not to say that we were going to, but we're not going to force it to. That's the bottom line from the county perspective. I'm not talking for the water management district. But that's something that we have to work together. You see this fork at the bottom? That's the pipeline network that we're going to have. With respect to the Broward County, they do have the same treatment, exact same treatment, maybe even better than what we have right now because our equipment is kind of getting old and we're replacing them, but they have that brand new and they produce the same quality. We get into it, yes ma'am. They produce a lot of drinking water because they're more populated than us, they have more population, more flows, and they keep in the most of the water they produce. It's not like they're selling all the water they have to us. But just like the commissioner said, there is no boundary when it comes to water. A gallon of water saved in Miami, help Palm Beach County, and vice versa. So that's why we all work together when it comes to the water problems. But anyways, I personally understand the existing community, they just don't like the change. No matter what I say about the quality of the water now, they said, you know what, I've been here for 30 years, I'm fine, I have what I have, I'm happy about it. You got a problem with water, but go solve it somewhere else. I get to say, yes, it's 2 minutes. Give it to, I'm almost done. So we have a priority for where the water gonna go. The water gonna come from Palm Beach County is not unlimited. We have a very limited supply. Let's say 10 MGD, Broward County. That 10 MGD, we already account for more than half of that in our mandatory zone. We have people that they've been waiting for this water for years and we just don't have to give it to them. If we're all gonna go get pumped up to that central location of the county. Believe it or not, when it comes to the summer and the dry season, we do not have nothing to give to people. And we get the phone calls left and right. So a lot of that water gonna get pumped up. The second tier gonna be the new development in this area. Whoever comes new, we start from the scratch together and we put the system together. We're also gonna focus on golf courses and parks. There are 2 county golf courses here, large parks, and I believe there's 1 private golf course. These are the places they consume a lot of water. 1 golf course, they may consume water 3 times of what the loggers run and all the other communities around it they use. They are our #1 target, right? By the time that we're gonna go through these 2 and finish the project, it will be 4 or 5 years from now. There might be some water available for loggers run, it might not be, to be honest with you. So at this point, we cannot say for sure that we know we're gonna give it to them now, till we build the project, till we do the connection, we'll finish the pipeline. The yellow part at the bottom just got built. The rest of it is under design.
So you're saying some pipes might go unused?
No, they're all gonna be used, but it's gonna push the water to the north part of the county. Nothing gonna be unused. All right, I think I have one more. So let's say, fast forward. We come to the point that they say we have some availability and a community wants to connect. There's a cost for it, it's not free. There's a cost for the treatment, there's a cost for the delivery of the water. It's not expensive, but it's not free. There are 2 types of connection that you can have. You either can put it in your pond, that has been done in the county many, many times, no issues, or you don't put it in your pond and you just directly take it to somewhere that you have a lot of grass and you use it for the irrigation. Both options are available. The price of both? All right, this is about the cost, right? So we simplified a lot this one just to make sure people understand at the end of the day what they're gonna pay. We used some assumptions and we said if you go option 1, which is a direct connection, you're not gonna go to your pound and you're gonna have 1 meter from us and you're gonna use that much of water, which is a lot of water. At the end of the day, for a 1,500 homes community, it will be about $4. If it goes to your per home, that's the cost per house, yeah, per month. If it goes to the other option, which is a pond, typically it's cheaper, it's about $1 less. So the cost at the end of the day, what we have seen is somewhere between 4 to 6, depends on where it is, it's site specific, depends on the size of the community, depends how they manage their water. So a lot of assumptions we have to make to come up with this estimate, but that's about the number. And I think that that's the details of the cost estimate, but we can provide this information, you don't need to know it now, but for the community, for per home, is about $4. Pretty much that's the end of the conversation for us, and we have a contact person here that you can send your questions or anything later on with us. We did ask Water Management District also to be here with us tonight. Unfortunately, they were short on staff. They are great partners for us, but they gave you some slides that I can give you some information that I think you'd like to know. So I'm now taking Water Management District time. So I'm done with mine, let's go to that one. And you see the difference, it's just black and white, the slide, you know, not much for white. All right, that's your pyramid. And we focus on Loggers Run for this one. You have a pyramid just like what we have for 20 years. That to take the water from the lake. Every 5 years, you have to renew them. So from now on till the next 5 years, when you go for the renewal, district gonna call us, they're gonna send a request to us to say, do you have drinking water available? We're gonna say no, because it's gonna take 5 years for us from now to build it. So that's fine, you go for the next 5 years. And then at that point, depends on if there is anything available or not, we can have the conversation. One other thing that we have done for you guys that I didn't speak about it is, there's a cost to put the infrastructure in the ground for the communities. So what that means, you have to have a pipe that connects to the county pipe and goes to the community, whatever is the point of discharge, and have all the things that you needed. Typically, that piece is about $200,000 to $400,000. We work with the state, DEP, and Broward County, and we applied for some grants. We were awarded the grants. So for some of that communities, we will pay that cost. It's limited, it's not gonna be for everybody. I think it's gonna be based on whoever comes in first. But that piece we can cover for the first communities as we moving forward. But I cannot guarantee that that's gonna happen for everybody. And I believe these are the 3 conditions that you're gonna go through with your permit. If the community cannot afford to pay, let's say $5 per home per month, you can tell that to the district, they may give you exemption. Say, okay, based on the economics, they don't have to get connected. I don't think that you have much of a chance to talk about the environmental feasibility of it, because the water, it is safe, has been tested, has been used all over the county, all over the state. And the other one is the technicality of the system. Maybe the older communities, you have to do a lot of modification in your system, that will cost you millions of dollars. Tell the district that, they may give you exemption. But again, we're not gonna force anything to communities to connect. And I believe that's the end of the story for you. I don't know how we're gonna move forward. You're gonna have selected questions or?
Sherry, in terms of questions and how you'd like to facilitate that, are there questions that we have here? Okay. Okay, so this is a question from Country Landing 3. Is it Ian Maradin? Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. We would like to know when and if there is a fee for installation.
Like I said, if the project gonna be done by 2027, so we got 4 more years. For the next 4 years, if the community comes forward, I think for the most part, we can cover the installation fee. When we close the project files, legally, we cannot spend no more money on this project. After that, we will do the best we can to ask for grants again, to cover that cost for the community, but we cannot guarantee it. But before 27, that 100, 200, 300,000, whatever it's going to be, we will cover it.
The next comment card was both the EPA and Florida DEP will now prohibit the discharge of this effluent into the Atlantic Ocean or the Everglades. If it's not safe in either of those places, why is it safe in our lakes?
What is being discharged to the effluent, to the ocean as of now is not drinking water. What it is, it's called secondary wastewater, which has no disinfection or other additional treatment. You can Google it and you see it. There's a big difference between that water and this water. So it's not the same.
There's a big difference between the water that's in our lakes now and the reclaimed water. We all know that Broward County is struggling to get the chemicals out of the drinking water. So I can't expect the reclaimed water to be any better than the drinking
Just to further back on
So
what you guys
actually, we appreciate it. If you got some comments too, we're happy to kind of chat through some of those as well. And we're happy to talk to you about drinking water qualities and existing drinking water as well, not an issue. Let me just get through some of these first, and then we can come back to if there's some additional ones, if that's okay. Is Broward County sending us their sewage? Okay, well then you'll let us get through these comments then, and you'll let us get through the comments. and then
We're
we
gonna
can
do the
take
comments, the people that submitted their comment cards, and we appreciate everybody just listening and being cooperative and being kind. Again, these are our guests, you're our guests, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. We've got some other folks that have some comments here, so we're gonna go with those. So Charlotte Smith asked, is Broward County sending us their sewage? If so, why? Can't Palm Beach County use our own sewage for reclaimed water?
So with the Palm Beach County, as I said, we do not have enough flows. Whatever we produce to the last drop, it goes out. The demand for the water is more than what we can handle at this point. If we want to do any other option, when there is no one to send the flows to us, we just cannot create it. So we get it from the other side of the state, the county. That's what the reason is. But whatever we produce is going to those communities.
And the water that we're getting it's not sewage, it's treated water. And so it's treated to standards that meet very high standards of the state of Florida, not sewage.
This water cannot go to ocean because it's because it's gonna be the waste of the water. I give you an example just for you to know. The ocean saltness, the degree of the saltiness of the ocean around us, let's say it's about 33,000 milligrams per liter. I don't want to get too technical with it. This water is safe, soft water with 250 or 500. Huge difference. A state not gonna allow anybody to waste that water. That's fresh water.
Okay. This is from Jamie Diabenzio in Boca Falls. If we are taking all of North Broward's wastewater, what is happening to our own wastewater? And why is Palm Beach County tasked with taking 100% of Broward's problem water? Yeah. So first off, we're not taking 100% of Broward's water from them. I think Ali made it clear that we have a much smaller percentage. Broward uses a considerable amount of their reuse water within Broward County. Ours is a smaller percentage of the overall that they produce. And then the question is, what are we doing with our own wastewater, Ali?
Let me add to it. The Broward County production is so huge. They send it everywhere in the county and they still have access because just so many people that live there, right? Just Google it, OISS with City of Pompano Beach. The same water that we bring in here, they have the same program over there. They're using it for everything and actually irrigation of the homes, just like individual homes, not even the communities. So it's being used in Broward 3 times, 4 times more than what we get in problem. What was the second part of the question?
Just why are we tasked with 100% of Broward's water, which I talked about the percentage.
We don't have 100%.
In 2021, Broward reclaimed 9 MGD for irrigation, while Palm Beach County reclaimed 37 MGD. Broward has needs at least equal to those of PBC. Why is Broward not keeping their own reclaimed water and discharging it into all the new communities they just built off Loxahatchee Road in Parkland?
Again, the same question. The majority of what they produce is being kept in Broward County. Our production for the reclaimed water in Palm Beach County is about 13 MGD. I don't know where that 37 came from.
That's why they want to ship it up.
Okay.
They're real, please.
The next question that we have on here is there are now mechanisms for PFAS removal. Why have they not been implemented or considered for this reclaimed water? Isn't the lack of PFAS treatment just perpetuating the problem by returning it to the water cycle in reclaimed effluent? And we kind of covered a lot of that in the slide, but Ali, you can kind of go over that in a little more detail.
It's the same thing that I mentioned. PFAS is not one community or one county or one state or one country issue. It's a worldwide issue. It's a worldwide issue. But do not panic by the media. Look at some of the facts that has been posted on their CDC. Okay. We already passed the storm of the PFAS.
Okay, I think here's...
Hey, sir, hold on a second, folks. We have a lot of people in here who have questions. They've asked them. They've given us to ask. We understand you have follow-ups. We understand you have more questions. I think I made it clear in the beginning that Ali and I would continue to stay here and answer any questions that you have. So let's get through some of these that some of your neighbors have put in for us so that we can get through that orderly. Then we can open it up, and if Ali and I want to come down there and chat with you and go over this for as long as you like, we are more than available to consider any questions, comments you have, ask any. If we don't have them, happy to do it. If you want us to come out to your individual neighborhoods, if we haven't been there, we're happy to do that as well. So just
and let me just add to it. I told my wife I'm not coming home tonight. So after this, I stay with you as long as you want it. I answer every question you have.
The next question, Ali, is wholesale discharge of reclaimed effluent into South County Park water bodies designed to retain stormwater will affect vegetation, land, and avian animal conservation. Won't this threaten Osprey Point's coveted Audubon Society certification?
It shouldn't be a problem. We have the Green Cave Phase 1. You can just go over the walk that. That's one of the best parks. It's been under reclaimed water for almost 20 years. The same thing with Wakudahatchee Park. So I do not see that problem, to be honest with you, to happen.
This question, those didn't have the name that it was coming from, but this one is from Linda Giannini from Boca Winds. If our retention lakes are kept artificially full by the dumping of reclaimed effluent, our flooding risk by severe weather events increases substantially. How is this to be monitored and anticipated?
Really great question. I was waiting for this. It's actually more important than a lot of other questions, but whoever wrote it, I appreciate it. We have a policy in place. Again, if you saw the slides, we already have, let's say, 100 different HOAs, 55 HOAs, I believe, under our system. Ahead of the storm, there's a program in place that we are in charge of it. We lower all the lakes. So we're not dumping no water in nobody's lake if we know the storm is coming, because that's where the water gonna stay. So that's the program that we have for the lake discharge people. For the direct connection, you have to control. If the storm is coming and you don't want to put no water in your system, just turn it off. Don't turn it on. So there is a control mechanism in place for both scenarios.
The next question is, reclaimed effluent usage is reported to both the DEP and South Florida Water Management District by county. Palm Beach County is using it. Shouldn't we receive 100% of the DEP credit?
I'm not sure what DEP credit they're talking about here, but sounds like the engineer wrote this question. If you're talking about the credit as part of our permit, that we have to do so much of reclaimed water per year, we do receive that credit, even if we bring it from Broward. That was one of the things that we put in the contract. They want. They said, we're taking it to our county, we the one getting credit for it from DEP, and that's what it is.
Yeah, and just to expand on that too, I mean, we recently went through our consumptive use permit process in Palm Beach County. We're granted our 20-year permit from the Water Management District this past year. And as a stipulation of that is obviously a component of the reclaimed water and the alternative water supply that we've talked about, and what percentage we needed to have of that. One of the great things, one of the great benefits in Palm Beach County is we put a significant investment in this. As we continue to invest in our reclaimed water program, we'll have more and more of that available. And then for future generations and future decades, as we continue to go back to the state to ask for that permit again, that capacity that we have a lot of. And so that's one of the good things, is we continue to grow that capacity. And there's tremendous need and tremendous want for that throughout the county. And I think that the Water Management District and DEP looks at Palm Beach County as one of the leaders in this area of the foresight that we're looking into the use of this water.
If I can take a minute just to add to it, I know we've been talking about reclaimed water a lot, but reclaimed water is not the only thing that we have done for Palm Beach County when it comes to alternative water supplies. We also have other options that we've been using them all. We're not just doing one thing. You know, we want to be drought proof. We got 13 deep wells. Let me just give you some numbers. Typically, any production water well is about 100 feet. If you go further down, water gets salty, and we pretty much do the desal at that point. We have 13 of those wells. It costs us $2 million each one to get one. We have 13 of them just to make sure not only you have the good drinking water, your kids have drinking water, even your kids' kids have the same drinking water that you're enjoying today. So it's a lot more behind it, only talking about one piece, but I don't want you to think that's all the county has been focusing. We have done multiple different things to protect the county.
This is from Scott Levine in Boca Falls. Our roadways in Boca Falls were just resurfaced. Do they have to dig up our roads to connect to the system?
If we end up going to a community, regardless where it is, whatever the condition that we receive it in terms of your pavement, when we give it back to you, and Brett, the city can correct me, either gonna be the same condition or it's gonna be better. It's not gonna be worse, and that's part of our contract. So, in other words, and you can talk to the communities that we have done the pipeline projects. When we go there, they take a picture, they record the video, and our design engineers see that can speak about it. And we establish what we receive. That includes your roadways, your driveways, whatever you have on the street. We give you something equal. 99% of the time is actually brand new asphalt, brand new pavement.
This question is from Bob Magaletti in Island Lakes. What are the new red pipes in the swale in front of Island Lakes going to be used for? They're about 2 to 3 feet tall and are held in with cement footing.
I don't know where the community is, but Brent can talk
Brent,
about
do you
it.
know about the red pipes?
Hi, how's it going? Brent Whitfield. I'm an engineer with the company that's helping the water utility put this together. You may have seen a transmission line being constructed on Riverside Drive, portions of Glades. The contractor, the system has a series of flushing hydrants where they can check and make sure there's no air in the line, things like that as part of the operation. The current status of just general supply chain, none of those flushing hydrants were available in purple, which is the requirement of reclaimed water. They were only available in red. So I was just talking to the contractor this morning and I was saying, when are you gonna get your guy out here to paint these purple? They're gonna confuse people. So I apologize, I just yelled at the contractor this morning about it. He told me he'll get his guy out soon and paint them purple. But basically, they are separate. They're really just for the operation system. They need to have points that they can clear air or kind of flush the system as part of their operations. Very rarely would they be likely used. But it's part of the transmission system, as Ali mentioned, that's taking it north or to Osprey Point. They're not a signal that there's any mandatory connections, as he was saying. So they don't flush it like in large quantities of water. We try to locate them in places where they can just be flushed to the grass, small volumes of water, not onto any streets or sidewalks or anything like that. We try to orient them in sensible places. No, they wouldn't be flushed to nearby lakes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them going to nearby lakes, but we tried to locate them where, it's just operationally, they can just isolate, flush it to the grass, turn it back off, and what have you. But the discharge, I don't want to get off track, but Osprey Point, we pick them in a location that makes sense the way all of the lakes are operated from the surface water management system. We put the discharge to a lake that makes sure it keeps it where the irrigation is and kind of connects to the whole system while getting that same dilution. But anyway, I've probably taken up too much time.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Rodney Smith from Winding Lake Estates, and I'm sorry if I'm trying to get through with the question might be on this. There are a couple of statements on here. It says there are several ways of recharging groundwater, reuse, pumping into, now we don't pay, and you're going to ask us to pay. Maybe kind of focus on the payment. Okay.
Somebody lived here 10 years or something like that, and things change. I haven't lived down this way for 10 years.
Rodney, you submitted your question on the card and they're trying to answer.
And I'd like to know if the reclaimed water will support our life in our lakes still, or if all these things go away when we start dumping it in there. Has anybody tested our water?
Yeah, so I'll tell you about supporting wildlife with reclaimed water, and I would invite every single one of you, if you've not been out to Green Cay, to go to Green Cay. Back in the mid-90s and the late 90s, we had the good fortune of being able to work with the Winsberg family. And we took a farm, what was a pepper farm, and we converted it into one of the most thriving wetlands in Palm Beach County, if not in South Florida. And that entire wetland is charged with solely reuse water. Reuse water is what we feed through our pipes that go in there. And it's probably, I mean, it's considered one of the great park and natural areas in the country. And it sustains some of the most diverse wildlife that we have in Palm Beach County. I can't speak specifically to maybe one individual type of wildlife, but I can tell you that we have people that come from around the world to take world-winning photos of the wildlife that exists in that area. And Audubon and some of the leading environmentalists and environmental associations hail that as one of the really great natural amenities that exists in our state of Florida, and particularly in Palm Beach County. The next question is from Julianne Kidrose from Loggers Run. Per Broward County, this water cannot be near pools, eating areas, fruit trees, etc. If this water is put into our lakes for irrigation, how do we keep the water and vapors from sprinklers?
That goes back to the safety of the water, and I show you some information. In a lot of cases, what you have in the lake is actually dirtier than the regional water. So, regional water in the pond or no regional water in the pond, that pond water should not get to your pool. That's the bottom line. I have not seen the data from your lake. There's thousands of them in Florida, but the one that I show is a collection of. If you go, please send it to us. We're more than happy
Send
to
it,
look at it.
we'd be happy to review it with you.
Absolutely.
We can get your number, we can sit
think
down
the data,
and
yeah.
come out and review your quality of your lake and share with you our facilities that we have where we test. We actually have our laboratories right here in the south end of Palm Beach County. We perform thousands and thousands and thousands of tests a year. We've got some incredible scientists, and it's pretty impressive. One thing I would tell you that we would do, and we've offered this to other communities, we'd be happy to invite you into our facilities to tour. We'd be happy to take you to our laboratories so you can see how and where we test, the kinds of tests that we do. It's quite eye-opening when you have an opportunity to see both that laboratory facility as well as the one that we featured in the video earlier.
And get a second. For some of you that have not been in Green Cay, it's not too far, or Wakudahatchee. It does show how this water supports aquatic life. And our lab is right there. Hold on one second. We provide the tour. Please, it's free. I'm sorry, sir? Thank you. I appreciate that. It's the same. It's the same water.
Guys, listen, again, they're trying to answer the questions that were submitted. People are being respectful. You're not being respectful when you're speaking out while they're trying to answer the questions. Please, be kind and be respectful.
How many more questions do you guys have?
We're gonna take maybe 5 more questions.
I mean,
I'm sorry,
we can do
I'm
it.
waiting.
We
I
can do
know.
it.
Yep, did you fill out a card? Okay, well then maybe we'll get to your question. Be quiet. If you would be quiet, we would get your card. We've got people that are leaving, they don't want to hear it.
Let me ask this one, Ali.
Tom.
Let me ask this question. It's not, I appreciate you coming and presenting this information. We really do, I swear.
We will not be able to get to your question if you don't allow them to answer them.
Here's the
Todd,
issue.
do you want to go on?
Please, I will shut up after this. Here is the issue. You guys are presenting data, and we appreciate it. The problem is, you guys are dictating data towards us without us being able to refute any of the data. We've seen tests, we've seen studies online that we've read that refute a lot of this data. The PFAs are much more harmful than what the EPA allows. This is the issue. Now you're saying we don't have to take the water if we don't want to. Okay, well then who gets to decide? Who's the we that decides, yes, we want the water or not? That's A. And B, will you guys be willing to come back here and do a debate with scientists that we bring with their own data? Would you guys be willing to do something like that? Okay, and the second part.
We'd be happy to sit down with any scientists that have data on this. I mean, we've got some of the leading experts in the world that work for us with our water utilities. So, I mean, look.
And then who's the we?
Honestly, I mean, one of the beauties I think of of, you know, working with some incredible experts, both on the public side and also on the private side, some of the leading corporations in the world when it comes to water and reuse, is that we have access to the leading scientists, to the leading data. We get opportunities to sit down in the rooms with those scientists and have that information. You know, like we said, we don't necessarily go home and Google this or Google that. I mean, we talk across the table to the folks that are doing the research, digging into it. They know how to ask the right questions. They know how to interpret the data. So we're happy to have conversations with any scientists in the area of water reuse that, you know, have got credentials and understand what reuse is and have worked in that field. Happy to do that.
I give you my contacts. Contact me anytime you want it. Even if you want to come just by yourself, come sit down with us. We show you the facility. We go over the data. Bring friends with you, scientists with you. Again, be part of the community. We're not, you know.
Okay. Adam in Boca Winds. The water we are receiving is from Broward, not Palm Beach County. Palm Beach cleans the water at a higher standard using a tertiary process, as well as Green K to help the screening. We are receiving straight reclaimed water from Broward, and why do we need to pay if Broward is paying you to take it?
It's the same story that we just covered. Everybody in a state follow the same regulations, right? There is no difference between their system or ours. They upgraded their system. They do have a tertiary system in place right now. They're producing good reclaimed water. We've seen their data. When the system gets online, not now, in the next 4 years, we're gonna have access live to what they do or not. We've seen it from our own facility. This is nothing new to us. We had a deal with FPNL. For you, some of you familiar with the FPNL power plant on Southern Boulevard, north side of the county, when you go toward Lake Okeechobee, that huge power plant. We produce reclaimed water for that power plant, 20 million gallons, 25 million gallons per day, in partnership with City of West Palm. They had the same issue. They did not trust the city, but they trusted the county. We have all the data from the city live. We control the quality. We see what it is, and we can shut it down. The same thing applies to the Broward County. I think a lot of people did not trust in Broward. I don't know why, but anyways, regardless, we have our own online access to water quality at any given time. On their side and our own side, we do test our own side. So I hope that gives you enough assurance that we check what comes to the county. We don't take this as stuff, you know, just easy. We have a lot. I sent a contract to one of the boards. I don't know which one was it. It's all spelled out in that contract how we're going to monitor what comes to the Palm Beach County.
Kimberly Chin from Island Lakes asked, whose responsibility is it to clear the bushes in the lake? This is affecting the flow of the water. I don't know if that's an HOA
That's
issue.
an HOA question.
Issue most likely there. Dino Dentali from Loggers Run. If this reclaimed water is not permitted to flow into our ocean, why are we now going to permit it into our lakes? I think we answered that question a little bit earlier in that regard. Dino, are you Dino?
Yes, sir.
Lakes have never been replenished by the aquifers. They have been replenished only by rainwater. Why should we be having that water enter our lakes now?
It's because, again, the same problem. There is a shortage of water, believe it or not. And we try to
We're
work
not
with community.
losing that shortage of water. We're not taking any water out of the aquifers.
I think one of the issues that and this is one of the things that we talked about in that regional availability rule, is that, you know, the state of Florida and the Water Management District, from a policy and a high-level policy that's been, you know, recurring over years, realizes that we don't have an infinite supply of water in our aquifer to just pull and pull and pull from. And that's why, as a policy, the state, you know, believes that alternative water supply, and which is why they put a significant amount of resources into it, and why it's a requirement of permits that we have to get from them, that you all have to get from them for your individual communities, include that alternative water supply and that reuse. And they realize that we're a growing community. And so as we continue to grow, the stresses are going to continue to be greater and greater and greater. And the state of Florida is saying, we're just not going to wait for the aquifers to dry up and then put our hands in the air and say, okay, what do we do now? And so that's why a lot of this innovation, that's why a lot of the work has gone in to a lot of these different alternative water supplies. And it's not just reuse. I mean, you know, the C51 project we have in the middle of the county is another alternative water supply, which is we're actually capturing runoff that would be rainwater that would go to tide, and we're keeping that, using that for different purposes. So that's just part of the overall reuse program that's existed in our state for decades. The issue, the next question from Lori in Water's Edge, we'll come back to Dina. What is the microbiological risks using reclaimed water, and who pays for the expense for the process involved for reclaimed water?
We kind of covered that part of it with the slides as part of the safety goals. We have not had even one single case in the past 20, 30 years that I know that caused any issues. And I share some of that information already with you. So the risk of reclaimed water technically is less than the lake water, the canal water.
This is from Loggers From, the last name is Graham. It says, reclaimed water has not been needed by any community here for 30 years or more. Why is it needed now? I think a lot of that goes to some of the conversations we've had. We have been using reclaimed water in Palm Beach County for 30 years. We're going to continue to use reclaimed water in Palm Beach County, and the growth of our county is going to continue to necessitate it under our permit from the Water Management District and future permits to have to use more and more reclaimed water. And if I could refer back to the video too, you know, one of the clips we had in there was Wilton Simpson, who was the former president of the Florida Senate and now is the Commissioner of Agriculture in the state of Florida, one of our cabinet members. I can tell you that the Senator and Commissioner of Agriculture, along with a lot of other folks in the state of Florida, have made it very clear that, you know, their goal is in the state of Florida for most water to be reclaimed water. Is that as we move forward and what the state of Florida looks like in 30 and 40 years from now from a water supply perspective, reclaimed water will continue every year to play a greater and greater and greater role in your water supply. And that's just the reality of the system. Yeah, Commissioner.
You know, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. It's difficult to think that we have to change. It's difficult to think that something that we took for granted our whole lives is now limited. We are running out of water, folks. In Israel, they have desalinization plants. Now, you don't have to do this. We're not forcing, and I represent you, the county's not forcing anyone to do this. But when you walk out of here today, I want you to understand one thing. We are running out of water. And if you have a better plan, maybe it is what Israel is doing, which is taking salt water and flushing it through their systems and making it fresh. We've got to be able to find a way that we can keep our water supply for our children and our grandchildren. Because soon there will be no more, and then we will be in a dire straits. In California and other states, they regulate. They have water patrols. And if you're using your irrigation on certain hours, or if you wash your car on certain days, you will be ticketed and fined. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to turn on the faucet. So let's find other ways that we can preserve our water. And you don't have to, please, you have to, you know, I'll tell you what, if there are certain people who disrupt, you may disrupt outside, or we'll talk to you outside. But you won't have people come in like the experts. This man is the head of the water supply for 2 million people in this county. And where is he tonight? He's here with you. Listen to him. Because after a while, you won't have these experts. You're just going to have to regulate. You only have water during certain periods of time. So let's be smart, okay? I live here, I've lived here, I have a family here. We need to conserve, we need to figure out how to do this. Because of Sherry Scarborough, we're here. We will continue to stay here until your questions are answered. But remember, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it at all. But we've got this issue ahead of us, so let's get smart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This next question is, what are the actual benefits from used water from another county? The question is, what are the actual benefits from used water from another county?
Right. Again, just like everybody else, we get a permit from the district management. And to defend the district, they have a big job to make sure agriculture has enough water, industry has water, community has water. They have to budget the water for everybody, and there's no enough. So every utility, when we receive our permit, let's say they give us 100 MGD, 100 million gallons of water per day, which is about what we have right now. There's a percentage of that has to come from alternative source, which is reclaimed water and the water from the deeper wells. I know some people are leaving. Please, when you leave tonight, do not think that this is a problem between us and you guys. We're all together on this. Nobody gonna get forced from the county to do anything unless we come to agreement that that's the right thing to do. But if we got a problem, as Commissioner Sachs says, we're running out of water. That's the real issue.
Brian McClure from Ashley Park was asking about what type of testing has been done on the safety of reuse water. I think we've chatted about that a little bit in some of the testing we do. Will we be provided with a complete list of processed chemicals used in reclaiming the effluent to establish a baseline assessment of our retention lakes before receiving a single discharged drop?
That can be done by the community. You know, there's so many of these lakes all around. They're private, we can't get into it. Again, we follow the guidelines, but we can be part of it. We can help you guys with the data and things that you needed from our side. Definitely, we have no issue to sit down with it, whoever wants to do that. But that has to be initiated and managed by the community.
Okay. This is from Frank Rourke in Island Lakes. What effect will this water have on fruit from trees that are planted beside the lake?
There are guidelines for the reclaimed water how to be used. So I don't know specific fruits and what can be used or not, but in Central Florida, a lot of those orange and big trees and things like that, they all been using reclaimed water for years. Again, but not everything can be used reclaimed to irrigate. I get to it. The same issue that you should not use your lake. The problem is if you have bacteria in the water, it doesn't matter if it's a lake water or reclaimed water, you shouldn't use it, right? That's a risk issue. So if you take in the lake water and you're thinking there's no problem with it, good luck with it. I can't speak about it.
Sorry, just to interrupt.
I know you've been raising your hand 5 times. Yes, ma'am.
It's exactly this comment. According to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, states that reclaimed water should not be directly applied to surfaces of vegetables or other edible crops that are not peeled or cooked, such as tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, and kale. That's as of August 20th of last year. So how can we say that this is safe if our own environmental protection says don't put it on your vegetables?
No, I can tell you this. Again, the same philosophy that that's not EPA, and that's a true statement that I just shared.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What they said, they always want to be on safe side, and sometimes they go too far to save the side, but that's what the regulation is. What they're telling us, use it for trees, use it for this and that, but when it comes with the direct apply, they just don't want to take that risk. Because when you take the water from your lake, that risk is on you. But if you take all water and do some irrigation with it and there's a problem, the risk is on us. So I believe that's what the purpose behind it. Put that one aside, as of today, City of Pompano Beach, get the first permit in the state of Florida for almost a year, that they can use it exactly for what you said. There's a house over there, I think it's called Sample House. It's like a museum, people that go over there get married. I only married once, so I don't know all these places that I can get married, but I heard it's a good one. So that place, they do exactly what you said with the reclaimed water, and they have a permit for it. So slowly that is changing. They're getting more comfortable with it. So
As of August.
no, I'm just giving you the local information, and I can send you the link.
But you could understand from a standpoint of,
Absolutely.
you know, we have families that are playing on this grass that's gonna get irrigated.
And it pulls
that a
right from the
little
lake,
kid-
and the sprinklers go onto the
We have
lawn.
animals that are eating it.
We have been using reclaimed water in Palm Beach County for decades. This is not a new technology. In fact, the technology has just continued to advance from when we started using it. One of the beauties of the Green Cave Phase 2 that we'll have, and hopefully you'll see it in the clarity of the lakes when we finally build that facility, the quality of water in our latest technology, and just from a clarity perspective, is going to be, it'll look like spring, water, and it'll almost be spring fed into that lake. So it'll emulate a spring. It's just like everything, technology continues to advance. I mean, we're talking about, water on a vegetable or something like that. I mean, this technology is used in California for, drinking water out of taps. This technology is used for astronauts in space to drink. This technology is used by the military on aircraft carriers to make sure that our men and women at sea have water to drink and use. So, it's not like there isn't an even more advanced use of this water that's out there. I mean, we're not even talking about, those issues here in the state of Florida, but the technology exists, and that's the kind of technology too that we're going to be using in our next phase, and we hope you get a chance to see that. Yeah. Okay. We've got just a couple more minutes. I'll just ask a couple more questions. I know we have a time constraint, and after 9, if there's any other questions, Ollie and I will stay outside in the parking lot with you as long as you'd like to ask, and certainly share our information to have future conversations. James Lay was asking about how it will be distributed to lake homeowners. I guess that's in terms of just within the community. I think we went over the 2 different kinds of types of distribution methods that will be there, whether it's direct irrigation or direct to lake. Isaac Pizarro from Windy Lake Estate says, can you ensure flooding will never occur if pipe bursts during the rainy season?
I can answer the question though. We do in Palm Beach County, we do 4,000 miles of pipe underground. That's enough pipe to go from Florida to California and come back. That's a lot of pipes. So at any given time, the main break can happen. But these systems are brand new. You do not expect them that they're gonna break for the next 20, 30 years. A typical pipeline that goes underground, the lifetime for it before it becomes a problem is about at least 50 years. So.
Yeah. This question from Ron Harp of Loggers Run says, does the HOA have the option to not have reclaimed water? And I know we've talked about that a bit more from the county's perspective. I would just refer, we did share some of the water management district slides that they did provide. And obviously, as you go through that permit process with the water management districts, this issue is something to dig in even deeper with them. We've had the opportunity to stand side by side with members from the water management district in community meetings like this, where they've talked about, both the feasibility, both economic, environmentally, and so forth. And those are some of those stipulations too that you'll have to work with the water management district as well in terms of some of those permitting processes and some of the exceptions that could be granted based on some of the 3 principles that they laid out there for a reclaimed water as it falls under that permit.
And please be mindful of the water management district. They have a big job to take care of the entire state. It's not like they're trying to come up with ideas to make the people's life miserable. That's not the case. They're not here to talk about it, but that's what they do all day long, just to make sure that we are good for the next 50 years.
So you guys keep saying that we don't have to take it if we don't want it, but it's not up to you.
Right. Who's it up to?
Well, it was explained that the water management district is going to force it here, and that my suggestion was, you guys have customers waiting, so why not just go ahead and take it to the places that aren't having this issue?
And when I think Ali went over the prioritization of the 1, 2, and 3 prioritization of where this water is going to go, and laid out sort of that new development, the golf courses, some of those existing users, the existing users, the newer communities were the last tier, meaning like existing communities were tier 3 in that prioritization list. We have so much demand for reuse water from customers in the county that, we almost can't keep up with some of the demand in the county.
Happen with you guys?
Yeah, of course. I mean, every GL community, for example, maybe you guys know GL as a developer, probably one of the foremost developers of, higher end homes in our county, particularly in the south end. GL can't get enough reuse water from us for every new development. I mean, for them, we'll take whatever we can get from you to do it. So when you look at that prioritization list, and Ali kind of spoke to this, a lot of that water might be spoken for, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years down the line when we start getting down to some of the individual connections to, some of our other, associations down here. So it's highly possible that there won't even be available capacity to meet needs, even if you say, we want this, we gotta have this water. So
Todd.
that's part of that piece.
I have a question, because I know there's many board members that are in attendance that will be making this decision for their communities, and we believe that at some point, South Florida Water Management is going to say, if there's reclaimed water, you are going to take it. So to the communities right now that are on the line, where the line is coming in, Palm Beach County will pay for the hookups in the infrastructure to get it into their lake. But they do not have to use the reclaimed water. If you hook them up, do they have to use the reclaimed water as soon as you hook them up?
That is a great question. Sure. Sometimes I can't hear it myself, so don't worry about it. So the question was, if you get us to pay for the connection, which we've been talking about, and it's a significant money to the communities, $200,000, $400,000. Right, and then you put them in, and you're not gonna use it. I think it's a good question. I do not have a straight answer for it, but I believe from the regulatory perspective, if you got hooked up and you have everything ready to go, you have a less chance of saying that it's not feasible for my community.
But you don't have to use it unless your lakes are low. So they wouldn't have to turn on the reclaimed water and fill the lakes with water if they've got plenty of rain. Correct? They would only use reclaimed water if the lakes were low.
Who decides that? The board? The community?
The board of directors. Rodney, you've had your chance. It's somebody else's chance.
I do have one question, excuse me. I've been very patient,
Okay,
please.
I've been informed I have 3 minutes to wrap up our questions until we're going to
I've been very patient over here.
Okay. Well, I'll ask the last question that I've got here. I've got a number of others, and I apologize if we didn't get to all of them. I can stay in the back with a stack, and we can go over them some more. Naomi from Boca Winds, will the water entering the lake in Sunset Cove Park? And if so, can people still jet ski in the lake? And yeah, so, well, Naomi from Boca Winds does. So.
No, you can't. You can't be in the lake.
I don't think that there will be any problem with that.
I mean, I think what we delineated to you in our first slide that we spoke to was what is the mean and average condition of your average lake that you have in your communities today, which primarily are charged by stormwater versus reclaimed water. And the standard that we have, well, are you skiing in your lake today? Is it, have you tested your lake to the quality of what you have, and does that quality of that do there? Right, maybe you want to lend to that.
So, again, Brent Whitfield with the engineering company. So, if you go out to the lake in the center of Bert Aronson Park, there's like the dog park there on the southeast side. And adjacent to the dog park, the lake kind of necks down to a small point and then goes over a spillway into another smaller lake that winds along the access road, if you guys are familiar with that. So the water that's from the reclaimed water that will only be put into that water body when the water body is low. That water is going to go downstream of that spillway. It will never be put into the center lake. because the irrigation for Osprey Point Golf Course, which is the user of the water, is downstream of the spillway, in between that spillway and the access point to the park from Glades Road. So basically there's a little pocket of the waterway that's kind of a middle step between the highest step, that's the lake in the middle of the park, and the lowest step that goes out to Lake Worth Drainage District's canal. We're only gonna put water in that middle step when the water's low and the irrigation demand occurs. Right now, what the park does is when that lake is low and they need water, which happens throughout the dry season, they pump from a well. So all we're doing is offsetting the use from the well. So that would be the same in any other application, which only would apply when that agreement is reached. The agreement with the park is when the water's low in the lake, that they normally would use a well, it gets offset with water from the reclaim.
Thank you, Brent.
So the jet ski is not at all.
I apologize for us getting the hook to have to close out this facility. Ali and I are happy to meet anybody outside if we didn't get to your questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, just know one thing. Hold on just 1 second before you leave. I told you I would give you information. You have a lot of questions. You have good questions. If you want another meeting, I'll bring the head of the Department of Agriculture. You saw him, Wilton Simpson. By the way, just so that you know, he's the largest chicken farmer in the southern United States. He's a great guy. He will come here, he'll listen to you, he'll talk to you, give you his expert opinion, as well as we'll get somebody from the federal government to talk to us about DEP. That is up to Sherry Scarborough. Let her know.
Yes, thank you. If anybody has any questions, comments, you want to give me information, email us at wbccemail@gmail.com. wbccemail@gmail.com. And thank you all for coming. You're not out there alone. We're here to help you. We'll do what we can. Thank you.